The playoffs are coming. Armed with home court, can the Spurs break through in the West? Or are the defending champs gelling at the right time to make another run? Our expert panel forecasts the playoffs. Rasheed Wallace's temper gets him in hot water again. Mr. Cuban takes out his wallet again. And Showtime flashes playoff history. So get hyped for the NBA Today. Next.
In this place, the glory only belongs to one. Getting here isn't enough. For old Rule Life, time is of the essence. Where one will lead the masses, unbridled forces no longer ignored. A time to exorcise your demons.
Weatherspoon shot.
A resurrection is within reach. Here you live or die. Here in the playoffs.
Thanks for dropping in on the NBA Today. Dave Rebs and David Aldridge with you. Good stuff. We'll be joined momentarily by Rick Bucher and Dr. Jack Ramsey. The who's in and who's out questions regarding the playoffs have been answered, but there are still some questions regarding playoff positioning. We'll try to clarify some of that for you. Start you off with Monday's games in the Eastern Conference, and with no further ado, let's check out the action. Knicks and the Cavs, less than 10 seconds to go. Knicks down by 2. Latrell Sprewell, the air ball. Cavs win it. Costly loss for the Knicks, 80-78. Hawks and Hornets. Hornets in control the entire game in this one. Baron Davis, how many times have we seen that this year? Hornets win it 106-83. As for the Bucks and Magic. Fourth quarter, Bucks up by 10. Glenn Robinson the steal. Glenn Robinson the lay-in, and the Bucks the win 101-89. Just 2 spots still up for grabs in the East heading into Tuesday's games. The Knicks could still catch the Heat in the battle for that 3rd spot. That is, if the Knicks beat Detroit Wednesday and Miami loses to Milwaukee and Orlando in its final 2 games. New York does have the tiebreaker there. As for the battle for 5th between the Raptors and Hornets, that is up in the air as well. Charlotte has the tiebreaker in that one. The Sixers have wrapped up the Eastern Conference title, and barring a couple of 75-point games from Jerry Stackhouse, Allen Iverson has the scoring title secured as well. So there really seemed to be no point in playing the banged-up Iverson over the final 2 games. As a result, he is heading to the injured list for the rest of the regular season. Coach Larry Brown saying, I just wanted to give him some time off to get healthy. Let's switch gears now. Check out the Western Conference action from Monday. Grizz and the Kings, Doug Christie. Kings win at 110-100, stay in the hunt for the Pacific Division title. Mavs and Warriors, Juwan Howard, great addition he has been for Dallas, working down low, gets it to go. More from the Mavs and Dirk Nowitzki. In the lane, Mavs win it, stay within a half game of Utah. Suns and the Clips, Jeff McInnes, Darius Miles, Clips are tough at home. Suns lose 100-80, now tied with Portland for 6th place, and there you see that in a visual form. 1 and 8, of course, are set, San Antonio and Minnesota. The rest of it, it's a bit of a mess, though. Mavericks did clinch at least a 5 seed with that win that you saw over Golden State. Lakers could clinch the 2nd spot with a win over Denver on Tuesday night, although, as we told you, the Kings are still in the hunt there. Rick, so many good teams in the West. You could probably make arguments for 4, maybe even 5 teams getting out of the West. What do you think it will come down to if you could put your finger on one thing?
Well, it's not the last time you're going to hear me use this word in this program. I think experience is going to be a huge factor. And we've got a couple of very glamorous, trendy teams in both the Dallas Mavericks and the Sacramento Kings who a lot of people are expecting to do some damage. I think ultimately that what's going to work against them is the fact that neither of those teams has anybody of any significance. You put aside a Vernon Maxwell or a Vlade Divac, who has played in a 7-game series. And the reality is that either one of those teams, should they get out of the first round, they'll tell you that their sights are set higher. It would be a huge accomplishment for both of them to get out of the first round simply because they haven't for years. It's very difficult to know how to win a 7-game series, how to play with the intensity and the focus that you need for that kind of a stretch, knowing that each and every game your season is riding on the outcome. So I think that ultimately is going to play against both Sacramento and Dallas being as successful as people expect. And obviously there's some other teams in the West that do have that experience. Jack, one of those teams are the Lakers, and they seem to be coming together at just the right time.
The main elements of the 2 triangles, the triangle offense and the triangle, the emotional one that exists among Kobe, Shaq, and Coach Phil, seem to be meshing at the right time. But if you're looking for one characteristic of the Lakers that is getting them to the near top of the heap again, it is their team defense. In the last dozen or so games, they played outstanding defense. Not coincidental with the fact that Derek Fisher is back in action. Fisher is a tough-minded defensive player, and now with Kobe Bryant and Fisher in the backcourt, they have defensive stoppers there. Fisher is probably the best in the league at taking charges. In the game against the Blazers on Sunday, Fisher did a great job, and the Lakers' defense was suffocating down the stretch. Now, they're coming on strong. David, you're with another team that I particularly like. How are things going with the Spurs?
Well, Jack, they're going great with the Spurs. I mean, they really took charge the last 2 months of the regular season, and they're playing exceptionally good team defense, the best in the league the last couple of months. And Derek Anderson has fit in really nicely with them, giving them that little extra that they haven't had. You know, Sean Elliott was still kind of in and out of the lineup this year. Derek Anderson stepped right in. They changed their offense a little bit to take advantage for him, some screen action, some things that he likes to do, catch the ball and shoot, and he has stepped right in, giving them that offensive burst that they need, but also played very good defense, and he's a much better passer than they ever thought he was going to be. You add all of those things together, Danny Ferry leads the league in three-point shooting, Robinson and Duncan in the middle. It's a tough, tough, tough team, David.
Yeah, and as we said, they've already clinched that top spot in the West. We do have a disciplinary note on the team they will face, the team that has clinched the 8th spot, and that is the T-Wolves. Forward Kevin Garnett has been fined $7,500 for making an obscene gesture towards a game official and failing to leave the court in a timely manner following his ejection Sunday against Utah. It was the first ejection of Garnett's career. That stands in stark contrast to Rasheed Wallace, who will sit out Tuesday's season finale against the Spurs for what Blazers coach Mike Dunleavy called conduct detrimental to the success of the team. Rasheed threw a towel in teammate Arvydas Sabonis' face. This came during Sunday's loss to the Lakers. Suns owner and Rules Committee Chairman Jerry Colangelo put it simply, saying we weren't satisfied with what the game looked like. As a result, the league's owners overwhelmingly approved the most sweeping set of rules changes since the advent of the 24-second shot clock last week, changes that include the elimination of the illegal defense rule. That means it is now permissible for teams to play a zone defense. Other changes include a defensive 3-second rule, meaning centers will not be able to simply camp out in the lane, that is, unless they are within an arm's length of an opponent. They've also reduced the time to cross the midcourt line to 8 seconds and have redefined the incidental contact rule to eliminate touch fouls that do not impede a player's progress. Reaction throughout the league was mixed.
If it's not broken, don't fix it. You know, I think it's been working the way it's been all these years. You know, why make some adjustments in it? I mean, what's the purpose of making the adjustment?
I don't understand why you even consider a zone. Some of the other rules you might want to change back to physical play, some of the things, but a zone is just absurd. You don't need that because it takes away from the individuality of a player.
I think we need to give some thought to some changes. And you got the whole summer and rookie camps and the USBL and to try these things out.
What the rules are now are not that different from the way the rules are going to be in the future.
I'm just happy. I think I'm going to be the defensive player of the year for the rest of my career.
Well, David, certainly no consensus there. It is a small statistical sample, obviously, and it's important to note, hey, look, the owners voted on this, so obviously they're happy with it. But what's the take you're getting from others throughout the league?
Well, the one thing is that some of the coaches really feel like they were not given real consultation on this, that they were not given an opportunity to come up with alternatives, that they were not given an opportunity to come up with ideas of their own, and they really feel like some of this is being forced upon them. Now, this will force coaches to change how they coach, and some of the offensive sets that you've seen in the past, they're going to have to do away with and come up with some more ideal situations, and they're going to have to come up with ways to fast break the basketball, which is really, I think, one of the main reasons the committee came up with this. Coaches are going to have to now really teach fast break basketball instead of paying lip service to it like they have for the last decade or so. Now, Rick, I know that there's a lot of players who aren't crazy about this, and I guess it's more a question of, can you legislate style?
I think that's exactly right, D.A. And I think one of the other factors with coaches is is you're now going to have to spend a lot of time teaching fundamentals. And it's not that they can't or that they don't want to, but you wear thin as a coach. You wear thin on your players through the course of an 82-game schedule anyway. If you've got to be on them about basic things, which is what is lacking in the league right now, which I think is the reason that it's going to be difficult for these rules to have the influence that everyone would like them to have. You're trying to legislate a way of thinking and a way of playing that I think, just because of the youth of the players that are coming in and the lack of experience, they don't know how to play. They're better at isolation, one-on-one individual basketball, because that's what they know. Being able to take advantage of a zone requires team basketball, and I just think it's not a matter of guys not wanting to play. They don't know how to play that game.
All right, it's been interesting to hear the debate on this the last 4 or 5 days, and obviously we'll hear a lot more about it as we head into next season. Meanwhile, George Irvin's first full season in Detroit may turn out to be his last full season in Detroit. The Detroit Free Press reporting the team will ask the coach to resign later this week. He will meet with management after Wednesday's season finale at New York. Irvin took over for Alvin Gentry with 24 games left last season. Since then, the Pistons have gone 46-58. So much more to come on the NBA today. Mark Cuban hits a milestone, the latest on his ongoing battle with the officials next. And playing the Clips has suddenly become a battle. We'll tell you why that won't change anytime soon.
Today is brought to you by WorldCom, Generation D.
Yet another installment this week in the season-long odyssey that has been the Cuban whistle crisis. Mavericks owner Mark Cuban fined $100,000 by the league for making a derogatory gesture and criticizing officials during the Mavs' loss to the Suns Wednesday night. Cuban also suspended for a game by the league. The fine pushed Cuban's total for the year over the $500,000 mark. The ever-improving Clippers will have at least 2 more years with a couple of their biggest stars. They have exercised options on Lamar Odom and Corey Maggette that will keep them in L.A. through the end of the 2002-2003 season. They've also picked up the second-year option on Jeff McGinnis. GM Elgin Baylor described the decisions as a formality. Still to come, we will look ahead to the playoffs. Do Michael and the Mavs have what it takes to make some noise? Plus, we'll be joined in the studio by the driving force behind the team that has dominated the WNBA playoffs, Sheryl Swoopes. WNBA draft coming up on Friday, and we're proud to welcome Sheryl Swoopes of the Houston Comets to the program, talk a little bit about the draft and about the Comets, of course, the 4-time defending champs. And when you're the 4-time defending champs, I suppose you don't worry too much about who you're going to add to your team in the draft. But are there any players that you're keeping an eye on coming out of college?
Definitely. I don't know if we're so worried about the players that we're going to get, but we're worried about the players that the other teams are going to get. Obviously, I think everybody's aware of Jackie Stiles, the kind of season she had. My personal opinion, I definitely think she'll go in the top 5. Even with players Shea Ralph, Brosomova, Tamika Catchings, those players getting hurt, I still think it's going to make the draft very tough because teams are going to have to decide if they want to take an injured player, and wait on them a year or not. I think it's going to be a great draft, and anytime draft rolls around, I get very excited because that means that the season's just right around the corner.
Yeah, the season can't be far behind. And obviously being on your side of things as the 4-time champs, you don't really want to see these other teams improve. I mean, parity is not something you're shooting for. But obviously that is going to happen. That's the way the draft is built in. As you say, you guys are going to end up with the last pick as the defending champs. You're not going to be able to build your team as well. These other teams are gunning for you. What's it going to take to make it 5 in a row?
Well, I think anytime you're a defending champion in any sport, you always know teams are going to come out, give you their best shot. So you got to be ready to play game in and game out, regardless of the competition, regardless of who you're playing. Obviously, as you said, with us getting the 15th pick, getting the last pick, basically, it's going to make it tough for us to decide who we are going to take at the 15th pick. But at the same time, I think it's going to be a great challenge for us. We're all excited about it. We're looking forward to this season. And, a lot of people have already counted the Comets out this year. So that's a little bit more motivation for us to come out during training camp, work hard, and just be ready to play this season.
You lose Cynthia Cooper, who has moved into coaching. Now, from your personal perspective, you're the MVP, reigning MVP. You're the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. Anything you personally think you can do to pick up the slack, or you think you're pulling your weight at this point?
Well, you know what? As you said, losing Cynthia, obviously we've lost a huge part of our offense, but at the same time, I think it's giving other players another opportunity to step up and say, you know what, maybe I've gotten overlooked a little bit because of what Cynthia did. Players like Janeth Arcane, who in my opinion is a great player, one of the top 10 players in the WNBA. I think she'll come back, she'll step up. Myself, Tina Thompson. I think it's going to take more than just one particular player. We're all going to have to come out every single game, take our game to another level, and we'll see what happens.
That is Cheryl Swoops, the Houston Comets. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us on the NBA Today. And don't forget, ESPN2, your place to turn for all your WNBA draft coverage. Join Matt Devlin, Vera Jones, Doris Burke, and Ann Myers as the future of the league takes shape. That is Friday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, again on ESPN2. There are those among us who thought they'd win the East. Is there any hope for Reggie and company heading into the postseason? Thoughts on that and on the Spurs' hopes of capturing another title as our panel of experts weighs in next. Definitely come back to haunt us. Here are our preseason picks. If the seeds hold in the playoffs, Dr. Jackal proved to be quite prescient. Had the Sixers and the Spurs, Phoenix as his sleeper. Diego with a Knicks-Blazers final. Did pick Milwaukee as the sleeper, though. Rick's East champ barely made it to the playoffs, but he did have San Antonio in the West and the Bucks as a sleeper. And my picks were the Bucks and Lakers with Dallas as a sleeper. Time to defend, modify, disclaim. We'll start with you, Jack. Sixers and Spurs. Looking like good choices at this point. Who do you think, though, has the best chance to upend the Sixers in the East?
Well, no question, Milwaukee is a team on the roll. They're the team that won against the top teams in the West. They beat the Lakers, Spurs, Kings, and Jazz. Swept those teams. They also beat Philly and Philly. Their main guy, I think, doesn't get enough credit, and he's Sam Cassell. Because Sam can handle. He's averaging about 18 points a game, 7.5 assists. His decision-making has improved, and he has a great sense of when to get the ball to his teammates and when to go for the shot himself. So if there's an upset team out there, the Bucks stop there. But overall, I like Philly to win the East still. They play very good defense. The addition of Mutombo, I think, is a big break for them. So I think they will withstand any challenges against teams and emerge as the Eastern representative. In the West, I like the Spurs yet. Right now, they have the best field goal percentage allowed defense in the league. They can score with the big guys, Duncan and Robinson, a great tandem. And Derek Anderson has made a huge contribution to that team. If those two teams meet in the finals, I still like the Spurs to win it all, probably in 6 games. Rick, what do you say?
Well, Jack, I like your picks. I see the only team that's got a chance. Actually, there's several teams I think that have a chance at knocking Philadelphia off. I picked the Pacers at the beginning of the year to be the Eastern Conference champs. I don't see that happening now at this point, but I do think they're playing their best basketball. And I think Philly has struggled a little bit trying to adjust to Dikembe Mutombo's game and the difference between that and Theo Ratliff. And I think before all is said, they're going to miss Tony Kukoc's shooting power off of the bench. Now, the reason that I'm picking Indiana as my sleeper pick in the Eastern Conference as having a chance of knocking off Philadelphia is primarily because of Jermaine O'Neal. I think he's the perfect type of center to attack Dikembe Mutombo. He's athletic. He's got a little bit of an outside game. He's long. He's got the spring to dunk on him and go right at him, and he can get Mutombo into foul trouble. If they can do that, I think that changes things dramatically as far as Philadelphia. The other factor is that the Pacers and Philly have met in the playoffs. This will be the 3rd time in a row, so there's a familiarity there. Now, my one caveat is the fact that Jermaine O'Neal has never played any significant playoff time, and I think playoff experience is very important. So overall, if Indiana doesn't knock off Philadelphia, I think they'll at least soften them up for Miami, which is now my pick in the Eastern Conference. I think they've got everything coming together. I think they've got the experience over anybody else in terms of postseason, and I see them playing San Antonio, my pick at the beginning of the year. I still see San Antonio getting there. The primary reason is simply because San Antonio has the home court advantage, and I think that's going to loom very large, as competitive as the Western Conference is. D.A., what do you got?
Well, I'm going to start with the sleeper pick in the West, and I still think the Mavericks have a great shot at getting out of the West. I don't think they're going to, but they're the kind of team that's going to drive people crazy. The ability that they have to break people down, to go one-on-one. You can't double on any of their top guys. I think the Mavericks can cause an awful lot of problems if they're shooting well. With their size combination, they have a real chance to pull an upset in the first round or the second round. But I still think in the East, I have a slight caveat here. I picked the Knicks if Marcus Camby is healthy. Big if. If he can give them what he's given them all season, defense, rebounding, blocking shots, and scoring in double figures, I still believe the Knicks have the ability and the defense and the experience to do it. I think they're going to be playing the Spurs. Even though I picked the Blazers at the start of the season, the Spurs have been fantastic the second half of the season. Last 40 games, they've held opponents to 86 points and less than 41% shooting. They are shutting people down. And I think right now the Spurs are the best team in the league. If David Robinson's back, stays healthy, I like the Spurs.
So we finally have a consensus amongst the three of you, all three choosing the Spurs. And, of course, the NBA tonight is the place to follow the entire playoff run. ESPN2 is your place to do that every Tuesday through Saturday night. And we'll see if, indeed, the Spurs do ultimately reign supreme. Be sure to watch it. Join David, Jason Jackson, Fred Carter, and me every Tuesday through Saturday night. Still ahead, it's showtime. Taking a look back at some great playoff moments.
Johnson fires, fouled, hit it! He hit it! He hit it! He was fouled and he hit it! Larry Johnson rose up and he was fouled on the shot.
3 a.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Jason Jackson, Brian Hill, and Fred Carter. Thanks to D.A. Rick and Dr. Jack, we leave you with great playoffs past in showtime.
Alley-oop is a good play. Sampson is 7 feet 4 inches tall, and he could rise above the pack there. 1 second on the clock. Sampson. It's over. Stole the ball, raced behind the three-point line, and hit again. Kid throws the ball over to Rex Chapman, who launches up a three. He's got it. Rex, King Rex. Johnson at the buzzer! Doctor, open three! What a way to answer Eddie Johnson's winning three-pointer. Pass comes into Jordan. Here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win!